Okay, in this video, we're going to continue our journey of rebuilding JavaScript API from scratch using TypeScript. I said that already. We do TypeScript here. If you want the JavaScript version, let me know in the comment. I will make sure that I build that video in the coming days and share that with you. But we're doing TypeScript here. And in this one, just like in the previous one, we took a function, right? findIndex. And we actually trying to answer that question. Find the index of the user that has an X in their name. And we have the list of user right there. So the way we're going to approach it in this case is we're going to first use the original API. And then once we're done with that or the original API, we're going to break it apart and try to put it back together. Okay. See how it works. So the first thing here we're going to do is to just create a result and then say user find index. And then what we're going to do is just to pass a callback right here. So let me move a little bit up there. So what is the callback? The callback will take a user and then it will simply say user.name, and we're just gonna look for includes, and there we're just looking for the X, right? So that will be the simple implementation here. And if I go with this, it says result is 2. Right? That's working. It's working really well. So that's step 1. Step 2 is let's break it apart. So the way we're going to do that is to comment out this. Let me actually pick this up here and then remove. We're going to make sure that these should work. And now the first argument should be this, right? That's the API we're going to work with and make sure that it's working. So how do we do that? We're going to first create a function and we're going to call it findIndex. And just like we can see right there, it takes a collection. And I'm always starting with unknown because you know what? We just don't know what that thing is. We're going to have a callback here, right? And that callback, I always start with function. Once again, you start from generic and then as you go, you just narrow down the type right there. Now, what we're going to do is, the way I approach it is basically saying, when I use, right, let me quickly go back here and look at what is happening here. So if we find the thing, right, it's going to return us the index, basically. But if not, it's going to return us -1. So that's literally the API. So if we want to basically copy that API, we're going to put it this way. We need to make sure that first we're going to handle the case where if it doesn't find anything, we're just going to return -1. We're going to return found right here, right? So let's go back here. And now we see indeed that we handled the case when we don't find anything. Now let's go ahead and work on finding the thing. So just like we did in the previous video, we're just going to loop through the collection. And from there, what we're going to do is to call the callback on that collection. Right there, right, good. And now we're going to have a result, right? And that result there will allow us to basically check for like a truthy value. Does that callback return something truthy, right? So because it's going to return something truthy, what we could do here is actually copy that entire thing and bring it right here. And now we could basically write it this way. Now, here's the interesting part. Whenever we check the callback and say, hey, it found a thing, we want to change the found to the index, right? And once we find it, we want to break here. So the idea of breaking allows us to avoid looping through the entire array when, for example, the element that you're looking for is the first element in the array. So let me show you that here. So here, if I have I put a counter. Let me have a counter here. we go at 0, and then each time the counter is each time we loop, we want to increment that counter here. So I'm just going to say console log counter. Right. So it says it looped through it twice, right? So if we go all the way up here and then we move this, we're going to see that counter it basically hasn't, it just didn't reach that part because it breaks, right? If I move it, okay, that's broken here. It doesn't reach that part because it breaks. But if I move this thing a little bit here, right there, you see now that counter has been called once, right? Because of that break. If not, if that break wasn't there, it will go through every single thing, still return you something, but it will actually go through every single element, knowing that findIndex just wants the first one, the first index, the index of the first element in that thing. In JavaScript, there are other methods like find the last index. We're going to do that as part of this series, right? So here, let's break. And then see that indeed we have it working really well right there. Our implementation is working really well. Okay. Now, one thing you probably didn't see here is when I was writing this right there, that function user dot, and then there is no name showing. Right. If you've seen the previous implementation, you understand by now that it's because we didn't type things correctly. Yes, we're using TypeScript and we should be typing things really well. So let's fix that. I'm just gonna quickly bring this back here and then make sure that we have a proper implementation. So the way we're going to do that here is to replace these with the findIndex callback. I'm gonna call it this way. And to make it really simple, I'm just gonna create an interface and call it findIndex callback. Right there, and we're just going to pass a function that's going to have an element of type T. And when I say T here is because we're going to have a collection. Let's go all the way here. And what we're going to do, I'm going to just say this is going to be something of type T, and it's going to return a Boolean right there. Now let me move that a little bit up here so we can see what we're doing. So here I then need to say something like type T, and because that's the collection that we're gonna be using, I can then use T right there and then pass this one right here. So with what we just did, we just made sure that whenever you pass that that callback over there, so user.name, you see the name showing, and then we can go into include because you understand that that's a string. Then we have that auto completion happening or that help from the IDE while we're typing. So that's basically our implementation here. It's not that difficult, and I really want you to keep in mind that is not it is not really difficult. It's just understanding how the things work underneath, and that's what we're doing in this series. That's it. We're done with this one. We have a few more videos coming, and I would like you to just do something for me. Like and subscribe this video, and at the bottom of this video, there is in the description, you're gonna find a link where you could actually try this with a test-driven approach. I'll see you on the next one. You take care. Cheers.